Have you ever wondered why your investment returns haven't been quite as good as you hoped? I've seen a rise in the amount of people wondering why their investment pot isn't anywhere near as big as they expected. They've come to retire and now they have nowhere near what they need. This is because there's a ton of hidden fees when it comes to investing that can ruin your returns, which are often hidden behind free, low-cost offers or manipulated in a way to make them look cheap when in reality they're far from it. Each year I spend weeks researching the best platforms, digging through these websites to find these hidden fees. And today I'm going to give you the main ones you need to watch out for. I'll show you what these costs are, how to spot if you're paying them, and best of all, how to avoid them altogether. Imagine you step off the plane in Portugal to go on your summer holiday. You're excited to grab your first cocktail on the beach, and you have a few beautiful hours in the sun. You go to pay and disaster strikes. You've forgotten to buy euros. You've got two options here. You either pay with your debit card and you get hit with extortionate fees for using your card abroad, or you head to the local currency exchange. The problem is, you're so out in the sticks, there's only one local shop you can change your money at. And because this is the only shop in the area, his fees are double what you would expect to pay anywhere else. You're stuck in a place, you've ordered your drinks, and you have no choice to pay the high fees. This is exactly what happens when you sign up for a platform and you don't know about this cost. You've seen the stock you want, you already have your account set on this platform, and your funds deposited, and it's now or never. You want to buy the stock and you don't want to have the hassle of signing up for a different investment platform all over again. Or worse yet, you've paid it and you didn't even realise you've paid the fee in the first place. Like you could have just bought that cocktail on your bank card and not even noticed the rip-off fees the bank had charged until you got home. Investment platforms will often use these charges to claw back costs when they've offered you commission-free trades. Some will even offer you 1 or 2 free trades per month, which on the surface of it sounds great, but then they'll charge you up to a 1.5% fee, sometimes even more, just for the privilege of exchanging the currency. It's sneaky. Just imagine if they were upfront about this fee, you would never make a trade. The worst thing is, having spent a ridiculous amount of time comparing different platforms, their fees are often hidden and hard to find. There's 2 occasions you'll pay this fee. One is if you buy a fund, share or other instrument that isn't priced in pounds, and the second is if you receive dividends in a foreign currency. This is a huge one that people miss. To help get around this, we need to make sure you opt for the accumulation version of a fund where the dividends are automatically reinvested for you. The good news is providers are getting better at this. Vanguard has been historically bad for not having the accumulation version on the platform, which thankfully they've now added. Some platforms will make this easier with filter options, but you want to look out for abbreviations they add, which may be written like ACC for accumulation, CAP, or they may have them just written as A or C written on them. As you can imagine, this is a huge problem when people have the income version rather than the accumulation one. Of course, if your fund has holdings in a foreign currency, there will be conversion costs baked into it somewhere. But what you need to watch out for is that some providers decide to charge you the additional FX fee when it's paid into your account, which is very hard to find. You'll need to check with them directly about this if you hold the income version. A tip is that it's worth noting here that with funds, you always want to be buying the UK version of the fund. Most people will be doing this, but just watch out that you don't hold the US version of a fund. For buying things like US stocks, you're just going to have to pay the fee. The best option is to look for a broker with a low FX fee. A really good choice for a low FX fee is a broker I've currently come across called Saxo, who have a very competitive FX currency conversion charges across portfolios of all sizes. Saxo have been around for 30 years and are present in 14 different markets, which hopefully adds credibility and trust. They've recently revamped their pricing structure and now only charge 0.25% for FX currency conversion, regardless of how big the trade is. To give you a sense of how that compares across the market, here's the charges for some of the more well-known investment platforms. Hargreaves Lansdown 1%, Interactive Investor 1.5%, Barclays at 1%, AJ Bell 0.75%, AJ Bell's Doddle 0.5%, Free Trade is 0.99%, Fidelity 0.75%, and Trading 212s is 0.15%. Saxo has kindly sponsored today's video and they're offering you guys £200 worth of free trades if you open an account via the link down below. Some providers will only charge you the fee for converting your money once and hold it in dollars. This way you'll only pay the exchange fee when you buy dollars, and then when you eventually convert them back into pounds. Of course, you would need to watch what the dollar does here, as you'll be leaving your money in a foreign currency currency. You can get around this by hedging, but that's a topic for a whole other video. The next fee you need to be aware of is something you may not even realise is happening. After finishing your drink in the Portuguese cocktail bar, you head out for the day and stumble across a local orange orchard. Here you meet Martha, who's been growing the trees through generations of her family. Her father did it before her and his mother before that. She explains how she's just planted over 100 new trees in this year in her biggest ever expansion. Martha has invested her hard-earned money into growing these trees, looking after them every day and regularly adding more resources into them: water, food, and expensive gardening equipment. She knows that if she puts the investment in now, that one day the trees will provide a fruitful harvest for her, the best organic oranges in all of Portugal. But there's a catch. When Martha harvests her oranges, she has to give a portion of the fruit to the local community because she's using their land. This way they can ensure that her harvest benefits the local community, as well as the countries she would export the fruits to. This is similar to how something called dividend withholding tax works. When you invest in a company and you are due to receive a dividend paid out to you because you own a share of the company, if it's not based in your own country, you have to pay an additional tax before you receive the dividend. This isn't something you will ever see, it's deducted before you even see it. So you may think that you've got an amazing dividend return coming from a company overseas, boasting a high dividend return, and it will be hit with this tax. If you're buying a US stock from the UK, we have a special treaty in place which reduces this from 30% on certain types of investments to a maximum of 15%, but it's still a hit. This means that if someone from the UK was buying the same US company as a US citizen, they would receive far less of a share. This is also true with index funds because a lot contain overseas companies which pay a dividend. Unfortunately, there's no real way around this and we have to pay it. US citizens would also have to pay it on UK dividends, and we have some really strong dividend paying companies here in the UK. The good thing is that this is automatically done for you, so there's nothing you need to worry about. But the important thing you need to know is that it exists and it does happen. Something that may really surprise you is a fee which you don't think about, which is something that's particularly common with platforms who offer commission-free trading, and this is opportunity cost. Let's imagine the purpose of your trip was to become fluent in Portuguese. It had always been your goal to visit the country and embrace yourself in the culture. You invested in the flight and the accommodation, and you knew the more time you spent in the country, the more your knowledge would grow and get better and better over time. Then, all of a sudden, you're offered the opportunity to have free flights and accommodation anywhere in the world. Jackpot. You grasp the opportunity and visit 10 different countries, each with its own language and culture. You pick up lots of conversational language from all over the world, but in this time your knowledge of Portuguese is falling. While you've now visited lots of different countries and have the experience of visiting them, your original goal of becoming fluent has faded away. 15 years later you go back to Portugal and start learning again from the start. When we invest, we have to start with a clear path of knowing what our end goal is. For the majority of us, this will be buying an index fund and investing consistently each month and staying the course. The appeal of a low-cost broker is amazing if it's used in the right way. What you have to do is avoid the allure of over trading, buying too many different things, then stray away from your original goal, chasing better returns which never materialize. Before you know it, you're 5, 10, 15 or 20 years down the line wishing you had stayed on the original path, as you're way behind on where you should be. This is something that as investors we have to avoid, as it will destroy your investment returns in the long run. The next two fees are the ones that will really hurt your portfolio in the long run, which you have to get right. The first one is high costs to trade. This one may sound simple, but can actually be more difficult to avoid than you think. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you'll be one of the ones using a low-cost provider, and not one that charges high fees. I was with Hargreaves Lansdown for years before low-cost providers entered the market, and my fees were astronomical. £11.95 per trade to buy, and £11.95 again to sell. That's nearly £24 per stock that I bought and sold, and I was trading multiple times per month. The larger your portfolio is, the less you will see that fee, as it will blend into the total balance. A low-cost provider is going to save you a fortune in the long run, and even a small percentage point is going to make a huge impact in the long run. If we compare HL to Saxo, who have kindly sponsored today's video, you're paying just £3 for trading a UK stock and just $1 for trading a US stock, which will save you a fortune. fortune. I'm sure we're all guilty of paying these high fees at some point, but it can also be more difficult to escape than you think. If you want all of your accounts on one platform, you're likely going to have to pay higher fees for the convenience. Or if, like me, you have a stocks and shares lifetime ISA, you're going to have to use a more expensive provider because we're so limited for choice in who offers one. If you need to use a provider with higher fees, explore things like regular investing, as they can cut down your fees drastically. The final fee is perhaps the most important fee of all, and one that destroys pensions. This is the main reason that people get to retirement age and they simply just don't have enough. The amount of people I've seen recently, which includes highly paid influencers who just leave their money to someone else to manage, is shocking. They don't have a clue what they're invested in at all. First, the majority of financial advisors who manage your money will charge you a percentage point for doing so. This can be up to 1% per year for doing so. In some cases, if they are actively advising you on how to structure your retirement from different sources, it could be relevant. But then, even so, a flat one-off fee would be much more preferable. Just imagine how high a 1% charge can be on a £1 million investment portfolio. Yep, £10,000 per year. Now, on top of this, whether you use someone as a pension provider or not, it highly depends on what you're invested in. If you aren't careful, it's very easy to have your fees rocket. If we take, for example, the Vanguard FTSE Global All Cap, which is one of the most popular funds on the planet, the fund has a relatively low management charge at 0.23%, and a huge benefit is that it costs you nothing to buy this fund, so you can add as much as you want, avoiding £11.95 fees. Well, the problem is this. It's classed as a fund and not as an exchange-traded fund on the Hargreaves website, both of which are charged at 0.45%, but the difference is one isn't capped and one is capped. What I mean by this is as your portfolio grows, the ETF fund would be a maximum charge of £45 for the year or £3.75 per month, whereas a fund version will grow and so on. So on a £10,000 portfolio, it's equal at £45 per year, but then the ETF version caps there and the other one keeps growing. So you can imagine when you're hitting retirement age and hoping to get every penny you can out of your portfolio, a £4,500 charge for owning a fund, which could have an identical performance to one traded as an exchange-traded fund, is just silly. The best way to avoid this is by either looking for an exchange-traded fund, which is what I personally trade in, or you can go for a platform that caps this fee at a fixed amount. These fees, while it may seem like nothing, will make a huge impact on your portfolio in the long run. You need to make sure these high percentage fees aren't being charged to you. Often what they're doing is putting you in really bad funds and then also charging you a really high fee, so in the end you get such a bad performance, and in the meantime they've also charge you a huge fee for actually managing the portfolio, which is crazy. These fees, while they might seem like nothing, will make a huge impact on your portfolio and the long-term returns, and something you need to get right. If you have any questions about any of these fees or want to share a horror story of fees you paid, let me know down below in the comments. And if you want to know how I increased my portfolio by 43% in just 1 year, check out this video right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you over there.